In our Byzantine liturgy, during the most sacred part of the liturgy, during the consecration and the preparation for receiving Holy Communion, the priest says a prayer in which we ask God to make these gifts, His body and blood, in the presence of bread and wine, to make His body and blood something that will give us a spirit of vigilance. Vigilance means being aware of God, the presence of God everywhere, but also being aware of the evil that threatens us. In other words, being on our toes spiritually, seeing with clarity. And that is something we must do now. We must pray for that spirit of vigilance. During the Obama administration in the United States, President Obama ran on the platform of fundamentally changing America. Into what? We don't know. But in 2015, President Obama gave millions of dollars to the Wuhan Institute for Virology. We all know that is where the pandemic originated. The pandemic began in China. China allowed travel internationally, sent their people in every direction of the world. But they did not allow travel within their own nation. They knew what was happening. But the communist, atheistic government of China, not the people, the atheistic government, communist government, withheld true information from the rest of the world. So they wouldn't understand and really know what was going to hit us. So the pandemic spread first to Europe, then it came to America. And in America, certain states did things like take elderly people who were sick and put them into nursing homes. And in fact, the greatest percentage of deaths from this virus in America happened in nursing homes, as though there was some intention to get rid of the elderly. You have to be vigilant. Then came the lockdowns, the shut-ins, and the economy began to tank. Churches especially were hit hard by this lockdown, having ridiculous and unfounded, unscientific policies imposed on them, such as not being allowed to have services in the church at all. Or if you did, you were allowed to have only 12 people. There was no context for that number, no scientific evidence, nothing. Some churches, even to this day, in some states like California, can't have their services inside the church. They have to have it outside, and with only 12 people outside. Now they're shutting the churches down again. As the weather got warmer, we began to reopen businesses, churches, just a bit, but with a lot of restrictions. So the economy began to surge again. So what happened? Out of the blue, this incident with George Floyd and the policeman. One question has never been answered. How do we know what was in the mind and heart of that policeman who knelt on George Floyd's neck until he died? Do we know that he did it exclusively because George Floyd had black skin? Do we know that? To know that means you can read the mind and heart of another person. It doesn't take away anything from what happened, but it's the intent that we presumed that has caused this chaos in our nation, that has justified violence and some kind of trumped up fear and claim of systemic racism. Systemic, that's a big word. Where is the evidence for systemic? All because of presumption of what's in the heart and mind of a police officer in a bite of a video that gives no context before, during, and after? There's another George that got in the act here, George Soros, famous international atheist, hater of everything and everybody, except what he wants, billionaire, who then began to finance organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter to encourage and inflame class struggle, racial violence and hatred, looting. Churches and statues were now vandalized and burned. Attack on anything religious. Now they're claiming there's another surge in the virus. But again, no context for those numbers. They're not saying things like the death rate from this virus is way, way down. Or that the supposed surge, happened after all the young protesters were encouraged by certain states, encouraged to go on top of each other, get in the face of policemen and spit in their face, wearing no mask, doing no social distancing. After that, there's suddenly a surge. We even have cases such as Florida, caught red-handed, skewing the numbers of this surge, completely misrepresenting the surge. And all this now has inspired more lockdowns once again. Churches being closed once again. Churches being restricted once again. Government officials telling churches how they can pray or not, where they can open their mouths to give praise to God. That suddenly all of this is dangerous? In the body and blood of Christ is a cup of poison? And basically the church has just rolled over and accepted that? And all of this, just in time as we move towards the elections in November. The spirit of vigilance should tell us all that there is a sinister cosmic evil working hard to destroy God's order of creation. Civilization, which reflects God's order of creation, makes it present on earth. And to destroy, to infiltrate, especially the church and the holiest place and moment of the church, the body and blood of Christ on the altar. Vigilance requires us to be aware of what is evil, but also of what our real hope is. Here at Annunciation Church, during the beginning of August, the first week in August, we're going to have special activities here, but especially prayer each evening to the Blessed Mother, a special prayer asking for her intercession. Because this evil is such that there's no human solution. That should be obvious right now. The church needs to be protected. So does the world, family, marriage. We have to turn to the ultimate power, to Almighty God, through the intercession of His most blessed Mother.